Chapter 1 Body, The First Step for a Seeker February 3, 1968 in a Joel Meditation Camp Note, this is the final edit of the Hindi translation of Antar Yatra, later published as part of Sadhana Path. This is for reference use only, pending publication. My beloved ones, in this first meeting of the meditation camp, I would like to talk about the first step for a meditator, a seeker. What is the first step? A thinker or a lover follows certain paths, but a seeker has to travel on a totally different journey. For a seeker, what is the first step on the journey? The body is the first step for a seeker, but no attention or thought has been given to it. Not only at certain times, but for thousands of years, the body has been neglected. The neglect is of two kinds. Firstly, there are the indulgent people who have neglected the body. They have no experience of life other than eating, drinking, and wearing clothes. They have neglected the body, misused it, foolishly wasted it, they have ruined their instrument, their veena. If a musical instrument, for example, a veena, is ruined, music cannot arise out of it. Music is an altogether different thing from the veena. Music is one thing, the veena is another, but without the veena music cannot arise. Those people who have misused the body through indulgence are one type, and the other type of people are those who have neglected the body through yoga and renunciation. They have tortured the body, they have suppressed it, and they have been hostile towards it. And neither the people who have indulged the body nor the ascetics who have tortured the body have understood its importance. 2. Chapter 1 Body, the first step for a seeker. So there have been two kinds of neglect and torture of the veena of the body, one by the indulgers and another by the ascetics. Both have done harm to the body. In the West, the body has been harmed in one way, and in the East, in another way, but we all are equal participants in harming it. The people going to the whorehouses or to the pubs harm the body in one way, and the people standing naked in the sun or rushing into the forests harm the body in another way. Only through the veena of the body can the music of life arise. The music of life is an altogether different thing from the body, it is totally different, something else, but only through the veena of the body is there a possibility of attaining it. No proper attention has yet been given to this fact. The first step is the body and the proper attention of the meditator towards the body. In this first meeting I want to talk to you about this point. A few things need to be understood. The first thing, the soul has a connection with the body at some centers, our life energy comes from these connections. The soul is closely related to these centers, from them our life energy flows into the body. The seeker who is not aware of these centers will never be able to attain to the soul. If I ask you which is the most important center, which is the most important place in your body, you will probably point to your head. Man's very wrong education has made the head the most important part of the human body. The head or brain is not the most important center of life energy in man. It is like going to a plant and asking it what its most important and vital part is. Because the flowers can be seen at the top of the plant, and everybody else will say that the flowers are the most important part. So although the flowers seem to be the most important, they are not. The most important part are the roots, which are not visible. The brain is the flower on the plant of man, it is not the root. Roots come first, flowers come last. If the roots are ignored, the flowers will wither away because they have no separate life of their own. If the roots are taken care of, the flowers get taken care of automatically, no special effort is needed to care for them. But looking at a plant, it seems that the flowers are the most important part, and in the same way it seems that, in man, the brain is most important. The brain is the final development in man's body, it is not the root. Mao Zedong has written a memoir of his childhood. He wrote, "When I was small, there was a very beautiful garden near my mother's hut. The garden was so beautiful, it had such beautiful flowers, that people from distant places used to come to see them. Then my mother became old and fell sick. She was neither worried about her sickness nor about her old age. Her only worry was about what would happen to her garden. Mao was young. He said to his mother, 'Don't be worried, I will take care of your garden.' And Mao took care of the garden, working from the morning till the evening. After 1 month his mother got better, and as soon as she could walk a little she came into the garden. Seeing the condition of the garden she was shocked. The garden was ruined. All the plants had dried up. All the inner journey 3 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. The flowers had withered and fallen away. She became very much disturbed and said to Mao, "You idiot! You were in the garden the whole day. What did you do here? All these flowers are destroyed. The garden has withered away. All the plants are about to die. What were you doing?" Mao started crying. He himself was troubled. Every day he used to work all day, but for some reason the garden went on drying out. He started crying and he said, "I took great care. I used to kiss each flower and love it. I used to clean and wipe off the dust from each and every leaf, but I don't know what happened. I was worried also, but the flowers went on withering away, the leaves went on drying out and the garden went on dying." His mother started laughing. She said, "You are an idiot. You don't know yet that the life of the flowers is not in the flowers and the life of the leaves is not in the leaves. The life of a plant is in a place that is not at all apparent to anyone. It is in the roots which are hidden beneath the ground. If one does not take care of those roots, the flowers and the leaves cannot be taken care of, howsoever much they may be kissed, howsoever much they may be loved, howsoever much the dust on them may be cleaned, the plant will wither away. But if one does not bother about the flowers at all and takes care of the roots, the flowers will take care of themselves. The flowers come out of the roots, not the other way round." If we ask somebody which is the most important part in a human body, then unknowingly his hand will point towards the head and he will say that the head is the most important. Or, if it is a woman, then maybe she will point towards her heart and say that the heart is the most important. Neither the head nor the heart is the most important. Men have emphasized their heads and women have emphasized their hearts. But by emphasizing these two parts, the society so formed is continuously being ruined every day, because neither of these parts are the most important part in a human body. Both are very late developments. Man's roots are not in them. What do I mean by the roots of man? Just as the plants have roots in the earth from which they draw their life energy and life juices and live, similarly, in the human body, there are roots at some point which draw life energy from the soul. Because of this the body remains alive. The day those roots become feeble, the body begins to die. The roots of plants are in the earth, the roots of the human body are in the soul. But neither the head nor the heart is the place from where man is connected to his life energy, and if we do not know anything about those roots, then we can never enter the world of a meditator. Then where are the roots of man? Perhaps you are not aware of the place. If even simple and common things are not given any attention for thousands of years, they are forgotten. A child is born in the womb of a mother and grows there. Through which part is the child connected to its mother? Through the head or through the heart? No, it is connected through the navel. The life energy is available to it through the navel, the heart and the brain develop later on. The life energy of the mother becomes available to the child through the navel. The child is connected to his mother's body through his navel. From there the roots spread out into the mother's body and also, in the opposite direction, into his own body as well. The most important point in the human body is the navel. After that the heart develops and after that the brain. These are all branches which develop later. It is on them that the flowers blossom. The Inner Journey for Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. Flowers of knowledge blossom in the brain, flowers of love blossom in the heart. It is these flowers which allure us, and then we think that they are everything. But the roots of man's body and his life energy are in the navel. No flowers blossom there. The roots are absolutely invisible, they are not even seen. But the degeneration that has happened to human life in the past 5,000 years is because we have placed all our emphasis either on the brain or on the heart. Even on the heart we have placed very little emphasis, most of the emphasis has gone to the brain. From early childhood, all education is an education of the brain, there is no education of the navel anywhere in the world. All education is of the brain, so the brain goes on growing larger and larger and our roots go on becoming smaller and smaller. We take care of the brain because the flowers blossom there, so it becomes larger, and our roots go on disappearing. Then the life energy flows more and more feebly and our contact with the soul becomes weak. Slowly, slowly we have even come to a point where man is saying, "Where is the soul? Who says there is a soul? Who says there is a God?" We do not find anything. We will not find anything. One cannot find anything. If somebody searches all over the body of the tree and says, "Where are the roots?" I cannot find anything, then what he is saying is right. There are no roots anywhere on the tree. And we have no access to the place where the roots are, of that place we have no awareness. From early childhood, all training, all education is of the brain, of the mind, so our whole attention gets entangled and ends up focused on the brain. Then for our whole life we wander around the brain. Our awareness does not ever go below it. The journey of a meditator is downwards, towards the roots. One has to descend from the brain to the heart, and from the heart to the navel. Only from the navel can anybody enter into the soul, before that, one can never enter it. Normally the movement of our life is from the navel towards the brain. The movement of a seeker is exactly opposite. He has to descend from the brain to the navel. In these 3 days I will be talking to you and showing you, step by step, how to descend from the brain to the heart and from the heart to the navel, and then how to enter the soul from the navel. Today it is necessary to say a few things about the body. The first thing to understand is that the center of man's life energy is the navel. Only from there does the child acquire life, only from there do the branches and sub-branches of his life start spreading, only from there does he get energy, only from there does he get vitality. But our attention is never focused on that energy center, not even for a minute. Our focus is not on the system through which we get to know that energy center, that center of vitality. Instead our whole attention and our whole education is focused on the system that helps to forget it. That is why our whole education has gone wrong. Our whole education is taking man slowly, slowly towards madness. The brain alone will only take man towards madness. Do you know that the more a country becomes educated, the more the number of mad people increases there? America has the highest number of mad people today. It is a matter of pride. The Inner Journey 5 Osho. Chapter 1. Body. The first step for a seeker is proof that America is the most educated, the most civilized country. American psychologists say that if the same system continues for another 100 years, it will be difficult to find a sane man in America. Even today the minds of 3 out of 4 people are in a shaky condition. In America alone, 3 million people are consulting psychoanalysts every day. Slowly, slowly in America the number of physicians is becoming less and psychoanalysts are increasing. The physicians also say that 80% of man's diseases are of the mind, not of the body. And as the understanding grows this percentage increases. First they used to say 40%, then they started saying 50%, now they say that 80% of diseases are of the mind, not of the body. And I assure you that after 20 to 25 years they will say that 99% of diseases are of the mind, not of the body. They will have to say so because our whole emphasis is being given to man's brain. The brain has become insane. You have no idea that the brain is a very delicate, a very fragile, a very subtle thing. Man's brain is the most delicate machine in the world. So much stress is being imposed on this machine that it is a wonder that it does not completely break down and become mad. The whole burden of life is on the brain, and we have no idea how delicate a thing it is. We have hardly any idea of how fine and delicate the nerves in the head are which have to carry all the burden, all the anxiety, all the suffering, all the knowledge, all the education, the whole weight of life. Perhaps you may not know that in this small head there are about 70 million nerves. Just by their number you can tell how tiny they are. There is no machine or plant more delicate than this. The fact that there are 70 million nerves in the small head of man shows how delicate it is. There are so many nerves in a single man's head that if they were spread out one after the other, they would encircle the whole earth. In this small head there is such a subtle mechanism, such a delicate mechanism. In the past 5,000 years all the stress of life has been placed on this delicate brain alone. The result was inevitable. The result is that the nerves have started breaking down, becoming insane, going mad. The burden of thoughts cannot take man anywhere else other than into madness. Our whole life energy has started moving around the brain. A meditator has to bring this life energy deeper, more downwards, more towards the center. He has to turn it back. How can it be turned back? To understand this we must understand something about the body, the first sutra. The first thing, the body is not seen as a temple nor as a path for the spiritual journey nor as a passage for discovering the center of life energy. The body is looked at either from the point of view of indulgence or from the point of view of renunciation. Both of these approaches are wrong. The path to whatsoever is great in life and whatsoever is worth attaining, is within the body and goes through the body. The body should be accepted as a temple, as a spiritual path, and as long as this is not our attitude we are either indulgers or we are renouncers. In both cases our attitude towards the body is neither right nor balanced. A young prince was initiated by Buddha. He had seen all kinds of pleasures in his life, he had lived only for pleasure. Then he became a bhikshu, a monk. All the other bhikshus were very much the inner journey. 6 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker surprised. They said, this person is becoming a bhikshu. He has never gone out of his palace, he has never walked without his chariot, the paths he used to walk on would be covered with velvety carpets. Now he wants to become a beggar. What kind of madness is he thinking of doing? Buddha said that man's mind always moves between extremes, from one extreme to the other. Man's mind never stops in the middle. Just as a pendulum of a clock moves from one end to the other but never stays in the middle, in the same way the mind of man goes from one extreme to the other. Up to now this man had lived at one extreme, indulgence of his body, now he wanted to live at the other extreme, renunciation of his body. And this happened. While all the bhikshus would walk on the highways, the prince, who had never walked anywhere except on the most valuable carpets, would walk on the pathways where there were thorns. When all the bhikshus would sit under the shadow of a tree, he would stand in the sun. When all the bhikshus would eat once every day, he would fast one day and eat one day. Within 6 months he became a skeleton, his beautiful body turned black and his feet became wounded. After 6 months Buddha went to him and said, Shrina. This was his name, I want to ask you one thing. I have heard that when you were a prince, you were very good at playing the veena. Is it true? The bhikshu said, yes. People used to say that there was no one else who could play the veena like me. Buddha said, then I have come to ask you one question, maybe you can answer. My question is that if the strings of the veena are too loose, can music arise or not? Shrina started laughing. He said, what kind of question are you asking? Even children know that if the strings of a veena are too loose then music will not arise, because sound cannot be created on loose strings, one cannot pluck them. So music cannot arise out of loose strings. Then Buddha said, and if the strings are too tight? Shrina answered, music does not arise out of strings which are too tight either, because strings which are too tight break the moment they are touched. So Buddha asked, when does the music arise? Shrina said, music arises when the strings are in such a state that we can neither say that they are very tight nor can we say that they are very loose. There is a state of the strings when they are neither loose nor tight. There is a point in between, a midpoint. Music arises only there. And an expert musician, before he starts playing, checks the strings to see if they are too loose or too tight. Buddha said, enough. I have received the answer. And I have come to tell you the same thing. Just as you were an expert at playing the veena, in the same way I have also become a master of playing the veena of life. And the rule which applies to the veena also applies to the veena of life. If the strings of life are too loose then music does not arise, and if the strings of life are too tight, then also music does not arise. One who wants to create the music of life, first makes sure that the strings are not too tight or too loose. The Inner Journey 7 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. What is the vina of life? Except for the body of man there is no other vina of life. And there are some strings in the body of man which should neither be too tight nor too loose. Only in that balance does man enter into music. To know that music is to know the soul. When a man comes to know the music within himself, he knows the soul, and when he comes to know the music hidden within the whole, he knows God, the Supreme Soul. Where are the strings of this vina of man's body? The first thing is, there are many strings in the brain which are very tight. They are so tight that music cannot arise from them. If somebody touches them, only madness arises and nothing else. And we are all living with the strings of our brains being very tight. For 24 hours a day we are keeping them tense, from morning till evening. And if somebody thinks that they may be relaxed at night, he is mistaken. Even during the night our brain is stressed and tense. Previously we did not know what goes on in a man's brain during the night, but now machines have been invented. While you are sleeping the machine will go on reporting what your brain is doing inside. At this time, in America and Russia, there are about 100 laboratories testing what a man does in his sleep. About 40,000 people have been experimented upon while sleeping during the night. The results that have been found are very surprising. The results are that whatever a man does during the day, he does during the night. Whatsoever he does the whole day. If he runs a shop in the daytime, then even at night he is running the shop. If the mind worries the whole day, then it goes on worrying during the night. If it is angry during the day, then it remains angry during the night. The night is the reflection of the whole day, it is its echo. Whatsoever happens in the mind during the day resounds as an echo during the night. Whatsoever has been left incomplete, the mind tries to complete it during the night. If you were angry and you did not express anger totally towards some person, if the anger was left incomplete or stuck, then the mind releases it at night. By expressing total anger, the string of the vina tries to reach its proper state. If somebody has fasted during the day, then at night he eats in his dream. Whatsoever has been left incomplete during the day tries to get completed at night. So whatsoever the mind does during the day, it does the same thing the whole night. For 24 hours the mind is tense, there is no rest. The strings of the mind are never relaxed. The strings of the mind are very tense. That is one thing. And the second thing is, the strings of the heart are very loose. The strings of our hearts are not tight at all. Do we know something like love? We know anger, we know envy, we know jealousy, we know hatred. Do we know something like love? Perhaps we would say that we do. Sometimes we love. Perhaps we would say that we hate and we love also. But do you know? Can there be a heart which hates and loves also? It is the same as saying that a person is sometimes alive and sometimes dead. We cannot believe this, because a man can either be alive or he can be dead. Both these things cannot happen simultaneously. That a man is sometimes alive and sometimes dead is not possible, it is impossible. Either the heart knows only hate or the heart knows only love. There can be no compromise between the two. In a heart which has love, hatred becomes impossible. The Inner Journey 8 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. There was a fakir woman named Rubiya. In the holy book which she used to read, she cancelled one line. She crossed out a line in it. Nobody cancels any line in the holy books, because what can one improve in the holy books? Another fakir came to stay with Rubiya. He read the book and he said, "Rubiya, somebody has destroyed your holy book. It has become unholy, one line has been cancelled from it. Who has cancelled it?" Rubiya said, "I cancelled it." The fakir was very shocked. He said, "Why did you cancel this line?" The line was, "Hate the devil." Rubiya said, "I have got into a difficulty. From the day that love for God arose in me, hate disappeared within me. Even if I want to, I cannot hate. Even if the devil comes in front of me, then also I can only love him. I have no other choice, because before I can hate I need to have hate in me. Before I can hate, I must have hate in my heart. Otherwise where will I get it and how will I do it? The coexistence of love and hate is not possible in the same heart. These two things are as contrary as life and death, they cannot exist together in the same heart. Then what is that which we call love? When there is less hate we call it love, when there is more hate we call it hate. They are lesser and greater proportions of hate itself. There is no love there at all. The mistake happens because of the degrees. Because of the degrees you may mistakenly think that cold and heat are two different things. They are not two different things. Heat and cold are gradations of the same thing. If the ratio of heat becomes less, then something starts feeling cold. If the ratio of heat becomes more, then the same thing starts feeling hot. Cold is another form of heat. They seem to be opposite, different, enemies of each other, but they are not. They are condensed and non-condensed forms of the same thing. We know hatred in the same way. The less condensed form of hate we understand as love, and the very condensed form of hate we understand as hate, but love is in no way a form of hate. Love is a totally different thing to hate. Love has no relation to hate. The strings of our heart are totally loose. From those loose strings the music of love does not arise, neither does the music of bliss. Have you ever known bliss in your life? Can you say about some moment that it was a moment of bliss and that you recognized and experienced bliss? It is difficult to say with authenticity that you have ever known bliss. Have you ever known love? Have you ever known peace? About them it is also difficult to say anything. What do we know? We know restlessness. Yes, sometimes the restlessness is in a lesser degree, which we take to be peace. Actually we are so restless that if the restlessness becomes a little less, it gives an illusion of peace. A man is sick. When the sickness becomes a little less, he says that he has become healthy. If the sickness that is surrounding him becomes a little less, he thinks that he has become healthy. But what is the relation of health to sickness? Health is a totally different thing. Health is a completely different thing. Very few of us are able to know health. We know more sickness, we know less sickness, but we do not know health. We know more restlessness, we know the inner journey. 9 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. Less restlessness, but we do not know peace. We know more hatred, we know less hatred. We know more anger, we know less anger. You may think that anger only happens sometimes. This idea is false. You are angry for 24 hours. Sometimes it is more, sometimes it is less, but you are angry for 24 hours. With just a little opportunity the anger will start surfacing. It is in search of an opportunity. The anger is ready inside, it is only in search of an opportunity on the outside to give you an excuse to be angry. If you become angry without an excuse, then people will think you are mad. But if opportunities are not given to you, you will start becoming angry even without any reason. Perhaps you do not know this. For example, a person can be locked in a room provided with every facility and asked to note down any changes which happen to his mind. When he notes them down, he will find that without any reason sometimes he feels good in that closed room, sometimes he feels bad, sometimes he becomes sad, sometimes he becomes happy, sometimes he feels angry, sometimes he does not feel angry. There are no excuses there, the situation in the room is constantly the same, but what is happening to him? That is why man is so afraid of aloneness, because in aloneness there are no excuses from the outside. One will have to assume all the things are within oneself. Any person kept in isolation cannot remain healthy for more than 6 months, he will become mad. A fakir told an Egyptian emperor about this, but the emperor did not believe him, so the fakir asked him to find the most healthy person in his city and to put him in isolation for 6 months. The city was searched. A healthy, young man, who was happy in every way, was just married, had a child, was earning well, was very happy, was brought to the emperor. The emperor told him, "We will not give you any trouble. We are just making an experiment. Your family will be taken care of, food, clothing, and every arrangement will be made for them. It will be a better situation for them than it will be for you. You will have all comforts, but for 6 months you will have to live alone." He was locked up in a big house. He was given every facility, but it was so lonely. Even the man who was guarding did not know his language, so they could not speak to each other. Within only 2 or 3 days the man started becoming nervous. He had every comfort, there were no hardships whatsoever, at the right time food was available, at the right time he could go to sleep. Because it was a royal palace, every facility was available and there were no difficulties whatsoever. Sitting there he could do whatsoever he wanted to do. The only thing was that he could not talk to anybody, he could not meet anybody. Within just 2 or 3 days the uneasiness began, and after 8 days he started shouting, "Take me out of here. I don't want to stay here." What was the problem? The problems had started coming from within. The problems that, until yesterday, he had thought were coming from the outside, he now found, in his aloneness, were coming from the inside. Within 6 months the man became mad. After 6 months, when he was taken out, he had gone completely mad. He had started talking to himself. He had started cursing himself. He had started getting angry with himself. He had started loving himself. Now the other was not present. After 6 months he was taken out as a madman. It took 6 years for him to get cured. Any one of you would become mad. Other people give you opportunities, hence you do not become mad. You find an excuse, "This man has abused me, therefore I am filled with anger." Nobody. The Inner Journey 10 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker gets filled with anger by someone abusing him. The anger is present within, the abuse is only an opportunity for it to come out. A well is full of water. If we drop a bucket in the well and pull it out, water comes out of the well. If there is no water in the well, then howsoever many times we drop the bucket in, nothing can come out. The bucket in itself has no power to get water out. First there should be water in the well. If there is water in the well, then a bucket can draw water. If there is no water in the well, then the bucket cannot draw water. If there is no anger within you, if there is no hatred within you, then no power in the world can bring anger or hatred out of you. During these moments in between, when no one drops a bucket in the well, one can maintain an illusion that there is no water in the well. When someone does drop a bucket into it, water can be drawn, but when the well is not being used we would be mistaken if we think that now there is no water in it. In the same way, if nobody gives us the opportunity, then no anger or hate or envy comes out of us. But do not think that there is no water in your well. Water is present in the well and it is waiting for someone to come with a bucket and take it out. But we think these empty, in-between moments are moments of love, of peace. This is false. Always after any war in the world, people say that now there is peace. But Gandhi said, "In my understanding it is not like that. Either there is war or there is preparation for war, peace never comes. Peace is a deception. Just now there is no war happening in the world, the Second World War has ended and we are waiting for the Third World War. If we say that these are days of peace, we are wrong. These are not days of peace. These are days of preparation for the Third World War. All over the world the preparations for the Third World War are going on. Either there is war or there is preparation for war. As long as the world has existed it has not seen any peaceful days. Within a man also there is either anger or there is preparation for anger, man does not know any state of non-anger. There is restlessness, either it surfaces or it prepares to surface. If we think that the moments of preparation within are moments of peace, we are mistaken. The strings of our heart are very loose. Only anger comes out of them, only distortion and disharmony come out of them. No music can arise. If the strings of our brain are too tight, then madness arises out of them, and if the strings of our heart are too loose, then only anger, enmity, envy, hatred, arise out of them. The strings of our heart should be a little tighter so that love can arise out of them, and the strings of our brain should be a little looser so that an aware intelligence arises out of them, not insanity. If both these strings become balanced, there is a possibility for the music of life to arise. So we will discuss two things. One is how to relax the strings of the brain, and the other is how to tighten, create a tension in the strings of the heart. The method of doing this is what I call meditation. If these two things happen, then the third thing can happen, then it is possible to descend to the real center of our life, the navel. If music arises in both these centers, it becomes possible to move within. That music itself becomes a boat to take us deeper. The more harmonious the personality, the more music arising within, the deeper we can descend. The more disharmony there is within, the more we remain shallow, the more we will remain on the surface. In the coming 2 days we will discuss these 2 points, not only discuss them but also experiment on how we can bring these strings of the vina of life into a balance. The Inner Journey 11 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. The 3 points that I have just told you about have to be kept in mind so that you can connect them with the things I will now say to you. The first thing, man's soul is connected neither to the brain nor to the heart, man's soul is connected to his navel. The most important point in a man's body is the navel, it is the center. The navel is not only in the center of man's body but also in the center of life. A child is born through it and his life ends through it. And for the people who discover truth, it is the navel which becomes the door. You may not be aware that the whole day you breathe with your chest, but at night your breathing starts coming from the navel. The whole day your chest goes up and down, but at night when you are asleep your belly starts moving up and down. You must have seen a small child breathing. The chest of a small child is not moving, it is his belly that is moving up and down. Small children are still very close to the navel. As a child starts growing, he starts breathing from the chest only, and the tremors of the breath no longer reach the navel. If you are going along a road, riding a bicycle or driving a car, and suddenly an accident happens, you will be surprised to notice that the first impact will be on the navel, not on the brain or the heart. If a man suddenly attacks you with a knife, the first tremor will be felt at the navel, not anywhere else. Even right now, if you suddenly become afraid, the first tremor will be felt at the navel. Whenever there is a danger to life, the first tremors are felt at the navel because the navel is the center of life. The tremors will not happen anywhere else. The sources of life are connected from there, and because our attention is not at all on the navel, man is left hanging in a limbo. The navel center is totally sick, there is no attention paid to it, and there are no arrangements for its development. There should be some arrangements to develop the navel center. Just as we have created schools and colleges to develop the brain, in the same way some arrangement is absolutely necessary to develop the navel center, because there are certain things by which the navel center develops and there are certain things by which it does not develop. As I said, if a situation of fear arises, then it is felt first of all at the navel center. So the more a man practices fearlessness, the more his navel will become healthy, the more a man practices courage, the more his navel center will develop. The more fearlessness grows, the more the navel will be strong and healthy and the contacts with life deeper. That is why all the great meditators of the world have considered fearlessness to be an essential quality in a seeker. There is no other significance of fearlessness. The significance of fearlessness is that it makes the navel center totally alive, it completely facilitates the total development of the navel. We will talk about it step by step. It is essential to give maximum attention to the navel center, so it is necessary to shift the attention slowly from the brain center and from the heart center so that it can go downwards and enter deeper and deeper. For this we will do 2 meditation experiments, one in the morning and one at night. I will explain the morning experiment to you and then for 15 minutes we will sit and do that meditation. If consciousness has to be brought downwards from the brain, it is necessary to leave the brain completely relaxed. We keep the brain tense all the time. We have forgotten that we go on keeping it tense. It is totally tense. We are not aware of it. So first it is necessary to let it relax. The Inner Journey 12 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. Now when we sit for meditation, there are 3 things. The first thing, the whole brain has to be relaxed, so calm and relaxed that it is not doing anything. But how will you know that it is relaxed? If we close the fist very tightly, we become aware that all the muscles are very tense. Then when we open the fist, we become aware that all the muscles have become loose and relaxed. Because our minds are tense all the time, we do not even know what it is to be tense and what it is to be relaxed. So we will do one thing. First we will make the brain as tense as we can, then we will relax it suddenly. You will realize what the difference between the brain being tense and being relaxed is. Now, when we sit for meditation, for 1 minute make the brain as tense as you can, give it as much stress as you can. And then I will say, now let it relax, then let it relax totally. Gradually you will come to know what it is to be tense and what it is to be relaxed. You should be able to feel it, it should become your experience, and then you will be able to relax it more and more. So the first thing is to relax the brain totally. Along with the brain, the whole body has to be relaxed. One has to sit so comfortably that there is no tension or stress anywhere on the body. There should be no weight anywhere on the body. Then what will you do? The moment you allow everything to be relaxed, the birds start singing, there is the sound of the watermill, somewhere a crow may cry, somewhere there will be some other sound. You will start hearing all these sounds because the more relaxed the brain is, the more sensitive it will become. You will start hearing and feeling every little thing. You will also start hearing your own heartbeat and hearing and feeling the coming and going of your breath. Then, sitting silently, one should experience quietly all that is happening around and do nothing else. You are hearing sounds, listen to them silently. A bird is singing, listen to it silently. The breath is moving in and out, go on watching it silently. Nothing else has to be done. You do not have to do anything from your side, because as soon as you do, the brain will start becoming tense. You have to just go on sitting in a state of relaxed awareness. Everything is happening on its own, you are simply listening to it quietly. And you will be amazed that as you listen silently, a deeper silence will start arising within you. The more deeply you listen, the more the silence will go on growing. Within 10 minutes you will find that you have become an extraordinary center of silence, everything has become peaceful. So we will do this as the first experiment of the morning. The first thing, you will make your brain totally tense. When I tell you to make the brain completely tense, then close your eyes and make your brain as tense as you can. Then I will tell you to let it relax, then let it relax, go on letting it relax. In the same way also let the body relax. The eyes will be closed, and, sitting silently, listen quietly to whatever sounds are heard. For 10 minutes you have to simply listen silently, nothing else has to be done. In these 10 minutes, for the first time, you will start feeling that a stream of silence has started flowing and your life energy has started descending within. It will start sinking downwards from the brain. You will have to sit a little farther apart from each other. Nobody should touch anybody else. Some people can come at the back on the lawn. The people who are familiar with this morning meditation, those who have attended previous meditation camps, they can sit at the back on the lawn. So that the Inner Journey 13 Osho. Chapter 1. Body, the first step for a seeker. Those who are new can listen. That way if I want to say something to them, if I want to give any instruction to them, they can hear. Those who are acquainted should go at the back so that the new people can sit in the front. Yes, old friends can go at the back and new friends can come forward. Some friends can come up here, some friends can come behind, so that you can hear. Nobody should sit touching anybody else. Nobody should touch the other. You are still touching each other. Move a little apart. Move a little further. Sit on the sand. First of all, close your eyes softly. Very softly close your eyes. There should be no strain on the eyes, it is not that you close them forcibly. Drop the eyelid slowly, there should be no weight on the eyes. Close your eyes. Yes, close your eyes, close them softly. Now allow the whole body to be relaxed and make only the brain tense. Put as much tension as you can on the brain, give it as much stress as you can, stress the whole brain. Force yourself to make the whole brain tense. Make it tense with all the strength you have. Make it tense with all your strength, but let the whole body relax. Put all the energy on the brain so that the brain is totally tense, just like a closed fist with all the muscles tense. For 1 minute keep it tense in every way. Don't allow it to be loose, make it totally tense. Make it as tense as possible. Make the brain within tense in every way. Keep it tense. Make it tense with your full strength, at a climax. With whatever strength you have, make it totally tense so that when you let it relax, it can be totally relaxed. Make it tense. Tense it. Now let it completely relax. Allow it to relax totally. Let the brain be relaxed totally. Release all the tension. A relaxation will start happening inside. You will feel inside that something has dropped, some tension has disappeared, something has become peaceful. Let it relax totally, just relax. And the sounds which are all around, the wind passing through the leaves, some bird singing, sitting silently, quietly listen to all these sounds. Just listen. Keep listening to the sounds all around. As you listen, the mind will become even more silent, listen. Listen silently, totally relaxed. Keep listening. For 10 minutes just become a listening. Go on listening and the mind will start becoming silent. Go on listening silently, just listening, the mind will become silent. A silence will start arising within you on its own. You just listen, go on listening, the mind is becoming silent. The mind is becoming totally silent. The mind is becoming silent. Go on listening in silence, the mind is becoming silent. Enough for today. The Inner Journey 14 Osho. Chapter 2 From the Head to the Heart, From the Heart to the Navel February 3, 1968 OM In a Joel Meditation Camp Note, this is the final edit of the Hindi translation of Antar Yatra, later published as part of Sadhana Path. This is for reference use only, pending publication. My beloved ones, this afternoon I would like to discuss a few more points relating to the real center of the body. A few questions have also been asked about it. Neither the head nor the heart but the navel is the most important and basic center of man's life. Man has developed according to his brain, so the direction and the flow of his life have gone wrong. In the past 5,000 years we have educated and developed only the brain, only the intellect. The results have been very harmful. The results are that almost every human being is on the verge of madness, a little push and any person can become mad. The brain is almost on the verge of breakdown, a little push and the brain can collapse. It is also a surprising thing that in the last half-century, within the last 50 years, almost all the greatest thinkers of the world have gone mad. In the West in the last half-century there has not been a single thinker who did not experience some kind of madness. Great poets, great thinkers, great philosophers, great scientists have been found to be suffering from some kind of madness. And slowly, as more and more of humanity is becoming educated, the symptoms of madness are reaching the common people also. If a new man is to be created, it is absolutely essential to change the center of man's life. If that center is closer to the navel instead of to the head, it will be closer to the life energy. 15. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. Why do I say this? In this context, it is necessary to understand a few more things. The child which develops in the mother's womb, the foetus which develops, is connected to the mother through the navel. The life energy of the mother flows into the child through the navel itself. The life energy of the mother is a very unknown, a very mysterious flow of electricity which nourishes the whole being of the child through his navel. Then the child separates from the mother. He is born. Immediately after his birth his navel has to be cut and the separation from his mother begins. It is absolutely necessary for the child to separate from the mother, otherwise he cannot have any life of his own. The child, who has grown in the mother and has been one with her body, has to separate from her at a certain point. This separation happens by cutting the connection which he had with her at the navel. When this connection is cut, the life energy which he was getting from the navel stops totally. His whole being starts trembling. His whole being starts asking for that flow of life energy which he was getting until yesterday but which today has suddenly stopped. The pain that the child feels, his crying after his birth, is not because of hunger, it is because of the pain of being separated and disconnected from the life energy. His connection with the whole life energy has been broken, the source from which he attained life until yesterday has gone now. The child struggles for life, and if the child does not cry, the doctors, or the people who know, will say that something has gone wrong. If the child does not cry, it means that he will not be able to survive. That he has not felt that he has been separated from the life energy can mean only one thing: he is almost close to his death, he will not survive. That is why every effort is made to make the child cry. His crying is absolutely necessary because if he is to live he should know that he has been separated from the life energy. If he does not know, he is in great danger. Then the child tries again to connect his life energy with something in a new way. His life energy again gets connected through the mother's milk. So a child's second connection is through the heart. Together with his mother's heart, his own heart center also slowly starts developing and the navel center is forgotten. The navel center has to be forgotten because it has been disconnected, it is no longer related to him. And now the energy which he was receiving through the navel, he starts receiving through the lips. He again gets united with the mother. Another circuit is created and through it he becomes connected. You will be surprised to know that if a child does not get his nourishment through his mother's milk, if he is not fed with his mother's milk, then his life energy remains weak forever. He can be fed milk in other ways also, but if he does not regularly receive the warm touch of his mother's heart, then his life becomes frustrated forever and the possibility of his living long is reduced forever. Those children who are not fed on mother's milk can never attain to much bliss and silence in their lives. The whole younger generation in the West, and gradually in India also, is becoming filled with great rebellion. The deepest reason for this, the root cause, is that Western children are not being fed on mother's milk. Their respect towards life and their relation to life is not full of love. From their very childhood their life energy has received many shocks and they have become unloving. In those shocks, in the separation from their mother, they have become separated from life itself, because for a child there is primarily no other life than his mother. All over the world, wherever women are becoming educated, they do not like to raise children close to them, and the effect has been extremely harmful. In tribal societies children are fed on mothers. The Inner Journey 16 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. Milk for a long time. The more a society becomes educated, the earlier the children are separated from their mother's milk. The sooner the children are separated from their mother's milk, the more difficulty they will have in experiencing peace in their own life. A deep restlessness will prevail in their life from the very beginning. On whom will they take revenge for this restlessness? The revenge will be taken on the parents themselves. All over the world children are taking revenge on their parents. On whom else will they take revenge? They do not know themselves what kind of reaction is happening within them, what kind of rebellion is arising within them, what kind of fire is arising within them. But unconsciously, deep within, they know that this rebellion is the result of being separated from their mother too soon. Their hearts know this, but their intellect doesn't. The result is that they will take revenge on their mothers and fathers, they will take revenge on everyone. The child who is against his mother and father can never be in favor of God. There is no possibility that he can be in favor of God because the first feelings which arise in him towards God are those which arise towards his mother and father. It is not without reason that all over the world God is called the Father. It is not without reason that God is seen as an image of one's father. If the first experiences in a child's life are of trust, gratitude, and reverence towards his mother and father, only then will the same experiences develop towards God, otherwise not. As soon as he is born, a child is immediately separated from his mother. His second source of life energy is related to the heart of his mother. But at a certain point a child will have to separate from his mother's milk too. When does that right time come? It does not come as early as we think. Children should remain close to their mother's heart a little longer if their love and heart are to develop rightly throughout their life. They are forced to separate very early. A mother should not separate the child from her milk, she should allow him to separate on his own. At a certain point the child will separate on his own. For the mother to force the separation is just like taking the baby out of the womb after 4 or 5 months instead of allowing him to come out after 9 months. It is as dangerous for a mother to separate her child from her milk before he himself decides to give it up. This effort of the mother is dangerous, and because of this effort the second center, the heart center, of the child does not develop rightly. While we are talking about this, I would like to tell you something more. You will be surprised to hear it. Why is it that all over the world, the part of the woman's body towards which men are attracted to most is the woman's breasts? These are all children who were separated very early from their mother's milk. In their consciousness somewhere deep inside a desire has remained to be close to a woman's breasts. It has not been fulfilled, there is no other reason, there is no other cause. In tribal societies, in primitive societies, where the children remain close to the mother's breasts long enough, men have no such attraction towards the breasts. But why are our poems, our novels, our movies, our dramas, our pictures all centered around the breasts of women? They have all been created by men who, in their childhood, could not remain close to their mother's breast long enough. That desire is left unfulfilled and now it starts arising in new forms. Now pornographic pictures are being created, pornographic books and pornographic The Inner Journey 17 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel songs are being written. Now men harass women on the streets, throw stones at them. We create all these stupidities and then later on we complain about them and try to get rid of them. It is very necessary for the child to remain close to his mother's breasts long enough for his mental, his physical, and his psychological growth to take place rightly. Otherwise his heart center will not develop properly, it remains immature, undeveloped, stuck. And when the heart center remains undeveloped, then an impossible thing starts happening, the work which the heart could not complete, which the navel could not complete, the person tries to complete with his brain. This effort brings even more trouble, because each center has its own function and each center can only do its own work, it cannot do the work of other centers. Neither the navel nor the brain can do the work of the heart. But as soon as the child is separated from the mother, he has only one center left on which the whole burden falls, this is the brain center. Education, teaching, schools, and colleges are all arranged for the brain center. Then only those people whose brain is more developed and capable make progress in life. A race begins and one attempts to do all the work of one's life with the brain. The love of a person who loves through his brain will be false, because the brain has nothing to do with love. Love can happen through the heart, not through the brain, but the centers of our heart are not properly developed, so we start using the brain. We even think about love. Love has nothing to do with thinking, but in us even love is expressed as thinking. That is why there is so much sexuality all over the world. Sexuality has only one meaning: it means that the brain is being used to do the work of the sex center. When sex enters the mind, the whole of life is destroyed, and now all over the world sex has entered our minds. The center of sex is the navel, because the greatest energy of life is sex. Birth comes through it, life comes through it, the growth of life comes through it. But our navel centers are undeveloped, so we are using other centers for its functions. There is sex in animals but not sexuality, so even the sex of animals is a beauty, a joy. The sexuality of man is ugly because sex has become a thought process in his mind. He thinks even about sex. A man can eat a meal, eating is very good, but if a man thinks about food for 24 hours, then the man is mad. Eating is absolutely right, it is very necessary, one has to eat, but if somebody thinks about food for 24 hours, then the centers of this man have become disturbed. He is using his mind to do the work of his stomach. The food cannot reach the mind, so the mind cannot digest it. The mind can only think, can only contemplate. The more the mind thinks about food, the more the work of the stomach will be wasted, it will become disturbed. Try sometime to digest your food by thinking. Usually you eat your food, and then you don't think about it. The food enters the stomach by itself, and the stomach does the work of digesting it. It is an unconscious center, it does its job. You don't have to think about it. But someday be alert and think about it. Now the food has reached the inner journey. 18 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel, the stomach. Now it is getting digested, now this may be happening, now that may be happening. You will find that digesting your food has become impossible that day. The more thinking enters, the more there will be a disturbance in the unconscious process of the stomach. Such incidents happen rarely with food, except with those people who are obsessed with fasting. If a person fasts without any reason, then gradually food enters his thoughts. He will not eat, he will fast, but he will be thinking about food. This thinking is even more dangerous than eating. Eating is certainly not dangerous. Food is very essential for life, but to think about food is a sickness. When a person starts thinking about food, all growth in his life will stop. He will be obsessed with these futile thoughts. With sex this has happened. We have snatched it from its proper center and now we are thinking about it. In this way we have gradually handed over the functions of the three important centers of our life to the brain. It is just as if a man tries to listen with his eyes or see with his mouth. It is as if a man tries to see or taste with his ears. We will say that this man is mad because the eye is the mechanism for seeing and the ear is the mechanism for hearing. The ear cannot see, the eye cannot hear. If we try to do things in this way, the final result will be chaos. In the same way, man has three centers. The center of life is the navel, the center of feeling is the heart, and the center of thinking is the brain. Thinking is the outermost of these three centers. The next center, deeper, is of feeling, and even deeper than that is the center of being. You may think that if the heart stops, then the life energy will also stop. But now scientists have come to the conclusion that although the heart may have stopped beating, the person can continue to live if it can be started again within 6 minutes. After the connection with the heart has ended, the life center at the navel remains active for 6 more minutes. If within those 6 minutes the heart can be started again, or if a new heart can be transplanted, the man can live again and there is no need for the man to die. But if life has gone from the navel center, then nothing will happen by changing a heart. The deepest and most basic center within us is the navel. This morning I talked a little about this navel center. The humanity we have created so far is upside down. It is as if man is standing on his head, doing Shirshasana. A person doing Shirshasana is standing on his head with his feet in the air. If a man is doing Shirshasana for 24 hours, what will his condition be? You can understand. He will certainly become mad. He is already mad, otherwise he would not have stood on his head for 24 hours, he has no reason to. But in our life we have reversed things, we are all standing on our heads. We have made our head the basis of our life. Thinking and contemplating have become the basis of our life. Authentic religion says that thinking and contemplating are not the basis of our life. To become free from thinking and contemplating, to become thoughtless, should be the basis. But we live by thinking and contemplating, and we try to decide our way of our life by thinking and contemplating. Because of this, all our ways have gone astray. By thinking and contemplating nothing can be decided, food is not digested by your thinking, blood does not flow in your veins by your thinking, your breath does not move by your thinking. The Inner Journey 19 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. Have you ever thought that no significant process of life is related to your thinking? In fact, all the processes of life slow down and become disturbed by too much thinking. That is why every night you need to get lost in a deep sleep so that all your processes can function properly without you hindering them, and then in the morning you can feel fresh again. The very survival of a person who cannot get lost in a deep sleep is at stake, because thinking continuously disturbs the basic processes of your life. So for a little while nature drowns you in a deep sleep, it takes you into a state of unconsciousness. All thinking stops and your real centers become active. There is also a relationship between our real centers. For example, I can be related to you through your intellect. My thoughts may seem right to you, my thoughts may seem impressive to you, then there will be an intellectual relationship between you and me. This is a minimum kind of relationship. The intellect does not form any deeper relationship. Deeper kinds of relationships are those of the heart, of love. But the relationships of love do not happen through thinking. The relationships of love happen totally unknowingly, without your thinking. And even deeper are the relationships of life which operate through the navel, not through the heart. They are even more indescribable. It is difficult to even define what kind of relationships they are because we do not know at all. I told you earlier that the life force of a mother activates the navel of a child. A kind of electricity keeps moving between the mother's navel and the child's navel. Then throughout his life, whenever that child goes near any woman from whom the same kind of electricity as his mother's is flowing, he will unconsciously feel a certain relationship. He will not understand at all what kind of relationship he has started to feel, or why. We have been calling this unknown relationship love. We are not able to recognize it, hence we call it blind. Love is blind, just as the ears can't see, the tongue can't smell and the eye can't taste. In this way love is blind, because it is arising from levels which are so deep that it becomes difficult for us to understand the reasons for it. With some people we suddenly feel a strong repulsion, we feel we want to get away from them. We do not understand the reason for wanting to get away from them. Why do we want to get away from them? If your electricity and their electricity, which is affected by the navel, is opposite, then without understanding it you will have to get away. It will seem to you as if something is forcing you to leave them. But sometimes you suddenly feel pulled towards a person and you don't understand why. There seems to be no reason for it. Your electricity and his electricity are perceived to be closer, similar, of the same type, connected with each other. That is why you are having such an experience. In a man's life there are three types of relationships. There are relationships of the intellect, which cannot be very deep. The relationship between a teacher and a student is this type of relationship. There are relationships of love, which are deeper than the intellect. The relationships between a mother and child, between brothers, between husband and wife are these types of relationships. They arise from the heart. Then there are even deeper relationships, which arise from the navel. I call the relationships which arise from the navel, friendships. They go deeper than love. Love can end, friendship never ends. We can hate tomorrow those whom we love today, but the one who the inner journey 20 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel is a friend can never become an enemy. If he becomes an enemy, then know that there was no friendship in the first place. The relationships of friendship are of the navel, they are relationships of deeper and unknown realms. That is why Buddha did not tell people to love each other. He called the relationship friendship. He had a reason for this. He said that there should be friends in your life. Somebody even asked Buddha, "Why do you not call it love?" Buddha replied, "Friendship is a much deeper thing than love. Love can end, friendship never ends. Love binds, friendship gives freedom. Love can enslave somebody. It can possess, it can become a master. Friendship does not become someone's master, it does not hold anyone back, it does not imprison, it frees. Love becomes a bondage because the lovers insist that the other should not love anyone else but himself. Friendship has no such insistence. One man can have thousands of friends, millions of friends, because friendship is a very vast, very deep experience. It arises from the deepest center of life. That is why friendship ultimately becomes the greatest way to take us towards the divine. One who is a friend to all will reach the divine sooner or later, because his relationships are happening with everyone's navel center. And someday or other he is bound to become related to the navel center of the universe. One's relationships in life should not be merely intellectual, they should not be only heartful, they should be deeper, they should be of the navel. For example, nowhere in the world is it clear, sooner or later it will become clear, sooner or later we will come to know, that we are connected with very far away sources of life energy which we cannot see. We know that the moon is very far away, yet it has some unknown influence on sea water. Sea water starts rising and falling with the moon. We know that the sun is very far away, but it is connected to life with some invisible threads. The sun rises in the morning and a revolution happens in life. All that was sleeping, all that was lying as if dead, all that was unconscious, starts becoming conscious. Something sleeping starts awakening, flowers start blossoming, birds start singing. An invisible flow from the sun leaves its influence on us. There are some more invisible sources of life energy which reach to us in this way, they manage our life continuously. Not only the sun, not only the moon, not only the stars in the sky, but life itself has a flow of energy which is not seen by us anywhere and which continuously influences and manages our centers. The more receptive our center is, the more this energy can influence our life. The less receptive our center is, the less this energy will be able to influence it. The sun rises, the flower blossoms. But if we raise a wall around the flower and the sunlight does not reach the flower, then the flower will not blossom, it will wither away. Behind closed walls the flower will wither away. The sun cannot forcibly enter and open that flower. The flower has to be in the open, it has to be ready. The flower should give the sun the opportunity to come and open it. The sun cannot go in search of one single flower, looking to see which flower is hiding behind a wall so that it can reach it. The sun does not even know about the flowers. It is all an absolutely unconscious life process. The sun rises, the flowers blossom. If a flower is closed inside a wall, it will not blossom, it will wither away and die. The Inner Journey 21 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel, life energy is flowing from all directions, but those whose navel centers are not open will be deprived of that flow. They will not even know about it. They will not even realize that this energy was there and could have affected them, that there was something hidden within them which could have been opened. They will not even know this. This flowering of the navel, which has been called a lotus since ancient days, is called a lotus because it has the possibility of opening. Some life energy may open it. One needs some preparation for this. For this our center should be available to the open sky and we should give our attention to it. Then life energy which is available to us can reach the navel center and give it life. I told you a few things about this in the morning. How will it be possible, how can it become possible, that the center of our life becomes a blossomed flower, so that whatever invisible energy streams are coming from all around can make connections with it? In what way will it happen? There are a few things I have remembered which I will talk to you about now, tonight, so that tomorrow we can talk about the second point. The first point, your breathing. The deeper it is, the more you can become capable of working on your navel and developing it. But we have no idea about it. We do not even know how much we are breathing or how little we are breathing, or how much is necessary. The more we become worried, the more we become full of thoughts. You may be unaware that the more loaded the brain becomes, the less the flow of breathing is. It becomes obstructed. Have you ever observed that breathing moves in one way when you are angry and in a different way when you are peaceful? Have you ever observed that if there is an intense sexual desire in the mind the breathing moves in a certain way, but if the mind is filled with beautiful feelings then the breathing moves in a different way? Have you ever observed that a sick person's breathing moves in a certain way and a healthy person's breathing moves in a different way? The flow of the breath changes moment to moment according to the state of your mind. The contrary is also true. If the flow of your breath is absolutely harmonious, then it changes the state of your mind. Either you change the mind and the breath changes, or you change the breath and it affects the mind. For the person who wants to develop and influence his life centers, the first thing is rhythmic breathing. While sitting, standing or moving, his breath should be so harmonious, so peaceful, so deep that he should be able to experience a different music, a different harmony of the breath day and night. If you are walking on the road, not doing any work, it will be very blissful if you breathe deeply, silently, slowly, and harmoniously. There will be two benefits. As long as breathing remains harmonious, your thinking will become less, there will be almost no thoughts. If the breathing is absolutely even, then the thoughts in the mind totally disappear. The breathing affects the thoughts in the mind very deeply and to a very great extent. It costs nothing to breathe properly and you do not have to spend any extra time to breathe properly. Sitting in a train, walking on the road, sitting at home, if the process of breathing deeply and peacefully continues then within a few days this process will become spontaneous. You will not even be aware of it. The breath will move deeply and slowly by itself. The deeper and slower the flow of breath, the more your navel center will develop. Every time you breathe, the breath hits the navel center. If the breath goes in and out from above the navel center, then slowly the center becomes idle, it becomes weak. The breath does not hit it. The Inner Journey 22 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. In the old days people found some clues, a formula, for breathing. But man is so unintelligent that he starts repeating the formulas without seeing their meaning, without even understanding them. It is just like scientists finding a formula for water, H20. They say that with the combination of both, hydrogen and oxygen, water is created. 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen make the formula H2O. Now if a person starts repeating, H2O, H2O, in the same way as people are repeating, Rama, Rama, Ahum, Ahum, then we will say he is mad, because what can happen by repeating a formula? The formula is only an indication about something. If you understand what it is about, then the formula is significant. You can often hear people sitting and repeating the sound of Ahum. They do not know that Ahum is a formula like H2O. There are 3 letters in Ahum. They are O, U, M. Perhaps you may not have noticed that if you close your mouth and say A loudly inside then you will feel the sound of it resounding in your head. A is an indication of the head center. If you say you inside, then you will feel the sound of you resounding within your heart. You is an indication of the heart. And if you say M inside, the third part of Aum, then you will feel it resounding near your navel. A, U and M are three sounds indicating sounds of the head, the heart, and the navel. If you say M, you will feel the whole force of it on the navel. If you say U, you will feel the force going to the heart. If you say A, then A will resound in the head and disappear. This is a formula. One has to go from A to U and from U to M. Nothing will happen by just repeating Aum. So those processes, which take us in this direction, from A to U and from U to M, are the ones one must pay attention to. Deep breathing is the first process. The deeper the breath, the more harmonious, the more in tune it becomes, the more the life energy within you will start arising, will start radiating from your navel. Your navel will become an alive center. Within a few days you will start feeling that some energy is flowing out from your navel, and you will also feel that some energy is coming in. You will find that a very living, a dynamic center, is starting to develop near your navel. As soon as you feel this, many more experiences will start happening around this center. Physiologically, breath is the first thing to develop the navel center. Psychologically, certain qualities are helpful to develop the navel. I told you in the morning about fearlessness. The more a man is fearful, the less he will be able to reach close to the navel center. The more a man is fearless, the more he will reach close to the navel. So in educating children, it is my essential understanding that one should never tell a child, even by mistake, that because it is dark outside he shouldn't go there. You do not know that you are harming his navel center forever. Wherever there is darkness, tell the children to go there certainly, tell them that the darkness is calling them. If the river is flooded, then do not tell the children not to enter it, because you do not know that the child who dares to enter a flooded river is developing his navel center. The navel center of a child who does not enter the river becomes weak and feeble. If children want to climb mountains, then let them. If children want to climb trees, let them. Wherever they can experience adventure and fearlessness, let them go there. Even if a few thousand children of a race die each year while climbing a mountain or entering a river or climbing a tree, it does not matter at all. Because if all the children of a whole race become filled with fear and become empty of fearlessness, then although the whole race may seem to be alive, it is actually dead. The Inner Journey 23 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. In our country this misfortune has happened. We talk a lot about religion, but we know nothing about courage. We do not know that without courage there is no religion whatsoever, because without courage the central element of life remains undeveloped. One needs courage, so much courage that one is able to stand and face death. Our race talks so much about religion, but our fear of death has no limit. Actually, the contrary should be the case. People who know the soul, recognize the soul, should not be afraid of death at all, because death does not exist. But we talk very much about the soul, yet we are very afraid of death, limitlessly afraid. Perhaps we talk about the soul because we are afraid of death. By talking about the soul we get some consolation that we will not die, that the soul is immortal. Perhaps we talk because of the fear. The reality seems to be something like this. Fearlessness should develop. Immense fearlessness should develop. So, whenever there are opportunities in life to face danger, they should be welcomed. Somebody once asked Nietzsche, how can one develop one's personality? He gave a very peculiar maxim, one which you could not have expected. He said, live dangerously. Live dangerously if you want to develop your personality. But we think that the more we live in security the better we will be. There is a bank balance, a house, policemen and military people are there, there is no fear. We can have a quiet life in all this. We do not realize that in making these arrangements and these comforts, we have almost become dead. There is no point in living anymore, because the only meaning of life is to live dangerously. There is no other meaning to living. Corpses are absolutely secure because now they cannot even die. Now nobody can kill them. Their graves are absolutely safe. An emperor built a palace. Because of security he made only one door to the palace. The neighboring emperor came to see it. He liked it very much. He said, I would also like to build a similar palace. This is very secure. No enemy can enter it. There was only one door and there were great security arrangements at the door. When the emperor departed, the host emperor gave him a send-off, and a big crowd gathered. While departing the emperor said, this has made me very happy. I will also make such a palace. There was an old man standing near him and he started laughing. The emperor asked, why are you laughing? He said, if you make such a palace then do not make the mistake which he has made. What is the mistake? Asked the emperor. Do not make even one door. Close all the doors. Then you will be absolutely out of danger, replied the old man. The emperor said, then it will become a grave. The old man said, this palace has also become a grave. There is only one door and all kinds of security and there is no fear from anywhere. This is a grave. We think that the absence of fear is fearlessness. This is a mistake. Fearlessness is not the absence of fear. In the presence of fear, fearlessness is a totally different thing which happens within. It is not the inner journey. 24 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel, the absence of fear. Fearlessness is the total presence of fear, with the courage to face it. But this does not develop in our lives. This is my suggestion to you: by praying in the temples you will not reach closer to the divine. But when the adventures of life and fearlessness are inviting you, when dangers are calling you, if you go, you will certainly reach closer to the divine. In dangers, in insecurity, the center which is hidden within you, which is sleeping, awakens and becomes alert. In danger, in insecurity, the center feels a challenge, and in this situation the center of the navel can develop. In the old days sannyasins accepted this very insecurity. They left the home, but not because the home was wrong. Later stupid people started thinking that sannyasins left the home because it was wrong, that they left their wives and children because they were a bondage. This idea is wrong. The sannyasin wanted to drop security. He wanted to enter the state of insecurity, where there was no support, no friends, no acquaintances, no one to be called one's own. Wherever there might be sickness, death, dangers, no money, he wanted to enter such a state of insecurity. So the one who chose insecurity was a sannyasin. But later on sannyasins created a good security, better than the people living in the society. A person living in the society has to earn his living, but a sannyasin does not. He is even more secure. He simply receives it. He gets clothes, he gets houses, he does not have to live without anything. The only difference is that he does not even have to earn it. The difficulty and insecurity of earning money is also finished. Someone else manages it for them, someone or other makes the arrangements for them. So a sannyasin became a person tied to a peg. That is why a sannyasin cannot be courageous. A sannyasin seems to be a person without any strength in this world. He cannot show even a little courage. One sannyasin says, I am a Jaina. One sannyasin says, I am a Hindu. One sannyasin says, I am a Mohammedan. Can a sannyasin be a Hindu, a Jaina, or a Mohammedan? A sannyasin belongs to everybody. But there is a fear in saying, I belong to everybody, because to say that may mean that the sannyasin belongs to no one. Then those who give him food, who make houses for him, may no longer be friendly to him. They will say, you do not belong to us. You belong to everybody, so you can go to everybody. We will make arrangements for you only if you are Jaina monk, or, we will make arrangements for you if you are a Mohammedan monk. We are Mohammedans, so we will make arrangements only for Mohammedan monks. So the monk says, I am a Mohammedan. Or he says, I am a Hindu. This is a search for security. This is a search for a new house. They have left the old house, now they want a new house. So these days the situation is such that those who are clever, who want a good house, do not make a house at all, they simply become sannyasins. They say to others, you are not wise. You make your own house, you commit sins and maybe you will go to hell. And they get these people to build a house for them, they live in it, they enjoy the thoughts of going to heaven, they earn virtue, and they escape from all the troubles of life. So sannyasins have created a security of their own. But basically the meaning of a sannyasin is a longing to live in danger. Basically it means that there is no shelter, no companion, no certainty about tomorrow. Christ was walking past a garden. He said to his friends, do you see these flowers which have blossomed in the garden? They do not know whether the sun will rise tomorrow or not. They The Inner Journey 25 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel do not know whether they will get water or not, but today they have blossomed in their joy. Man alone makes arrangements today for tomorrow, and then he makes arrangements for the day after tomorrow. There are people who make arrangements for how their grave should be built. Those who think they are wise create the memorials for their dead bodies to be kept in before their death. We all make arrangements and we completely forget that when a person makes arrangements for tomorrow, he kills this day while making those arrangements. Then tomorrow again he will make arrangements for the next day and he kills that day also. Every day he will make arrangements for the following day and goes on killing the present day. And there is nothing else except the present day. Tomorrow never comes. Whenever it comes, it is today. He kills today for tomorrow. This is the nature of a mind looking for security, it kills today for tomorrow. It sacrifices the present for the future. And the future never comes. Tomorrow never comes. In the end he finds that his whole life has slipped out of his hands. The person who dares to live today and does not even bother about tomorrow, is living in danger, because tomorrow there may be danger. There is no certainty about anything. It is possible that the wife who is loving today may not be loving tomorrow. The husband who is loving today may not be loving tomorrow. There is no certainty about tomorrow. Today there is money, tomorrow there may be no money, today there are clothes, tomorrow there may be no clothes. In the person who totally accepts this insecurity about tomorrow, and waits for tomorrow, faces whatever tomorrow brings, a center starts developing which I call the navel center. Within him a power, an energy, a potency arises. Within him a base arises like a pillar of courage on which his life can grow. So, on the physical level, breathing is needed and on the psychological level, courage is needed. These two things are basically necessary for the development of the navel center. If there is something else or if you have some questions in your mind relating to this, I will talk to you about it tonight. But first, before this present session is over, I must tell you one more thing. 700 or 800 years ago in Japan they tried to create a different type of person, they called him a samurai. He was a monk and also a warrior. This is very strange, because what is the relation between a monk and a warrior? The temples in Japan are very strange. In these temples, where they teach meditation, they also teach jujitsu and judo and the arts of wrestling, swordsmanship, and archery. If we were to go there and see, we would be surprised. What is the need to use a sword in a meditation temple? And teaching judo, jujitsu, and wrestling, what relation do they have with meditation? In front of meditation temples there are symbols of swords. It is a very strange affair. But there was a reason. The meditators in Japan slowly came to realize that if there is no possibility in a seeker's life of developing courage and strength, then only the brain will exist in that seeker. His other deeper centers do not develop. He can only become a scholar, he cannot become a saint. He can become a so-called knowledgeable person. He can know the Gita, the Quran, the Bible, and the Upanishads. He can memorize them like a parrot. This is possible, but he has no experience of life. So a meditator was taught how to use a sword and an arrow. The Inner Journey 26 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. Recently one of my friends returned from Japan. Someone there gave him a statue. He was very much troubled by it. He could not understand what kind of statue it was. When he returned, he came to me with the statue and said, "Somebody has presented me with the statue, so I have brought it here, but I have been wondering again and again what kind of a statue it is. What is its meaning?" It was a statue of a samurai warrior. I told him, "You cannot understand because for thousands of years we have created a wrong understanding. The statue is of a warrior with a naked sword in his hand. The side of the face on the same side as the hand with the sword, is shining with the reflection of the sword. His face on that side looks like the face of Arjuna may have done. In his other hand there is a lamp, and the light of the lamp is falling on the other side of his face. His face on that side looks like the face of Buddha may have done, or of Mahabharata, or of Christ. There is a sword in one hand and a lamp in the other hand. We cannot understand it because there should be either a sword in the hand or a lamp. How can there be both things in the hands of one man?" So my friend was not able to understand anything. He said to me, "I am very much puzzled. What is it all about?" I told him that the lamp can only exist in the hand of a person who also has a shining sword in his other hand. With him it is not a question of using the sword. Only weak people, fearful people, use the sword. A person whose whole life becomes like a sword, does not use it. There is no need for him to use it because his whole life is a sword. So do not think that if a person has a sword in his hands that he will use it, that he will hurt or kill somebody. A person only kills when he is afraid of being killed himself, otherwise no one will kill. A violent person is really only a fearful person. In reality a sword can only be held in the hands of a non-violent person. In fact, when a person himself becomes a sword, only then can he be non-violent, otherwise not. The lamp of peace only benefits a man in whose being a sword of courage has been born, in whose being a sword of energy, of strength, has been born. So on one hand the personality should be filled with total strength, and on the other hand with total peace. Only then can an integrated personality, a total being, arise. Up to now there have been two kinds of situations in the world. Either people have kept lamps in their hands and have become absolutely weak. If somebody blows out their lamp, they cannot even stop him or ask why he is blowing out the lamp. They will think that if this fellow goes away then they will light the lamp again, and if he does not go away then they will remain in darkness. Anyway there is no problem, so why take the trouble to resist? So on one hand, in one situation, there are people who have the lamp in their hands but have no strength to protect it. India has become one of those weak countries. It has become a weak country because we did not develop the real centers of our life energy. We simply stayed with the brain and memorized the Gita, and the Upanishads, and the sayings of Mahabharata, and went on commenting upon them. The master and disciple went on sitting and talking about thousands of useless things which have no concern with life. Our whole country, our whole race, has become weak, without any strength. It has become impotent. The Inner Journey 27 Osho. Chapter 2. From the head to the heart, from the heart to the navel. And on the other hand there are people who simply stopped caring about the lamp and took up the sword and started using it. Then, because they do not have a lamp, they cannot see who they are killing in the darkness. They don't know whether they are killing their own people or others. So they just go on killing, and if someone starts talking about lighting the lamp, they say, "Stop talking nonsense. During the time we are lighting the lamp, we could be using the sword. Also one more sword could be made with the metal with which we will make the lamp, so why waste all that oil, all that metal?" Life is all about using the sword. The people in the West are using their swords in darkness, the people in the East are sitting there with a lamp but without a sword. And both are crying. The whole world is crying. A right man has not been created. The right man is a living sword and also a lamp of peace. I only call somebody a religious man if both of these things have arisen in him. We have talked today on these first points. It is essential that many questions about them arise in your mind. They should arise. If you write down those questions, then I can answer you tonight. Then tomorrow we will start discussing some other points. So today ask questions only about what we have discussed today and not about anything else. Tomorrow we will talk about the other points, then you can ask questions about them. The day after tomorrow we will talk about still further points, then you can ask questions about them. So today it will be better if you ask questions about whatever I have just talked about. If you have questions which are not concerned with these 3 days, then you can ask them on the last day and we can talk about them then. Enough for this afternoon. The Inner Journey 28 Osho. Chapter 3 The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep February 3, 1968 p.m. In a Joel Meditation Camp. Note, this is the final edit of the Hindi translation of Antaryatra, later published as part of Sadhana Path. This is for reference use only, pending publication. My beloved ones, how the life of man can become centered in his being, how he can experience himself, how he can attain his own self, we have discussed in the previous 2 talks of today. Some more things have been asked. In answer to them, I will talk to you now on 3 points. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, I will answer the questions which are not related to today's discussion. And now I will answer the questions which are related to today's discussion, dividing them into 3 points. The first point is about how a man should start living his life from the center of the navel, centered in the self, centered in his being. Before I go into this, I would like to discuss 3 other significant ways through which the energy that is dormant in the navel can become awake. Once it is awake, it becomes a door through which man can experience a consciousness which is different from his body. I will tell you the 3 points, then I will discuss them. The first point is right exercise. The second point is right diet. And the third point is right sleep. The person who does not get right exercise, right food, and right sleep, can never become centered at the navel. Man has lost touch with all these 3 things. 29. Chapter 3. The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep. Man is the only species whose diet is not predictable. The diet of all other animals is certain. Their basic physical needs and their nature decides what they should eat and what they should not, how much they should eat, how much they should not, when they should eat and when they should stop. But man is absolutely unpredictable, he is absolutely uncertain. Neither his nature tells him what he should eat, nor his awareness tells him how much he should eat, nor his understanding decides when he should stop eating. As none of these qualities of man are predictable, the life of man has gone in some very uncertain directions. But if there is even a little understanding, if man starts living with even a little intelligence, with even a little thoughtfulness, opening his eyes even a little, then it is not at all difficult to change to a right diet. It is very easy, there can be nothing more easy. To understand right diet, we can divide it into 2 parts. The first thing, what should a man eat and what should he not eat? Man's body is made of chemical elements. The whole process of the body is very much chemical. If alcohol is put into a man, then his body will be affected by the chemical, it will become intoxicated, unconscious. Howsoever healthy, howsoever peaceful the man may be, the chemistry of the intoxication will affect his body. Howsoever saintly a man may be, if he is given poison, then he will die. Socrates died from poisoning and Gandhi died from a bullet. A bullet does not see whether the man is a saint or a sinner, neither does poison see whether a man is Socrates or some ordinary person. Neither the harmful intoxications and poisons nor the food sees who or what you are. Its functions are straightforward, it goes into the chemistry of the body and starts working. In this way any food which is intoxicating starts harming and creating disturbances in man's consciousness. Any food which takes man into any kind of unconsciousness, any kind of excitement, any kind of extremity, any kind of disturbance, is harmful. And the deepest, ultimate harm is when these things start reaching the navel. Perhaps you are not aware that in naturopathy all over the world, mud packs, vegetarian food, light food, water-soaked cloth strips and tub baths are used to heal the body. But no naturopath has yet understood the point that the effects of water-soaked cloth strips, mud packs, or tub baths, on the body are not so much because of their special qualities but because of how they affect the navel center. And the navel center then affects the rest of the body. All these things, the mud, the water, the tub bath, affect the dormant energy in the navel center, and when this energy arises, health starts arising in the person's life. But naturopathy is still not aware of this. Naturopathy thinks that perhaps these beneficial effects are coming from the mud packs or the tub baths or the wet strips on the stomach. They do have benefits, but the real benefits are coming from the awakening of energy in the dormant centers of the navel. If the navel center is mistreated, if a wrong diet, wrong food is used, then slowly the navel center becomes dormant and its energy becomes weaker. Slowly that center starts falling asleep. Finally it almost goes to sleep. Then we don't even notice it as any center. Then we notice only two centers, one is the brain where thoughts are constantly moving, and the other is a little bit of the heart where emotions are moving. Deeper than this we have no contact with anything. So, the lighter the food is, the less it creates heaviness on the body, the more valuable and significant it will be for the beginning of your inner journey. The Inner Journey 30 Osho. Chapter 3. The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep. For a right diet, the first thing to remember is that it should not create excitement, it should not be intoxicating, it should not be heavy. After eating rightly you should not feel heaviness and drowsiness. But perhaps all of us feel heaviness and drowsiness after our meals, then we should know that we are eating wrongly. A very great doctor, Kenneth Walker, has said in his autobiography that according to his lifelong experiences he can say that of whatever people eat, half of it fills their stomach and half of it fills the stomachs of the doctors. If they would eat only half of what they usually eat, then they would not get sick at all, and there would be no need of doctors. Some people get sick because they do not get enough food, and some people get sick because they get too much food. Some people die of hunger and some people die of overeating. And the number of people dying of overeating has always been more than the people dying of hunger. Very few people die of hunger. Even if a man wants to remain hungry, there is no possibility of him dying for at least 3 months. Any person can live without food for 3 months. But if a man overeats for 3 months, then there is no possibility of his survival. There have been people whose very ideas make us feel strange. There was a great emperor called Nero. He had 2 doctors whose job was just to make him vomit after his meals, so that he could enjoy eating at least 15 to 20 times a day. So he would eat a meal, then he would take medicine to make him vomit so that he could enjoy food again. What we are doing is not very different. Nero could have doctors at his palace because he was an emperor. We are not emperors, but we have doctors in our neighborhood. Nero was making himself vomit every day, we make ourselves vomit every few months. We eat a wrong diet and accumulate all kinds of things, and then the doctor gives us a cleansing. Then we start eating wrong food again. Nero was a wise man. He arranged for a cleansing every day, we do it after every 2 or 3 months. If we were also emperors, then we would do the same thing. But we are helpless, we do not have the facilities, so we cannot do it. We laugh at Nero, but in a certain way we are not different to him. Our wrong attitudes towards food are becoming dangerous for us. They are proving to be very costly. They have taken us to a point where we are somehow just alive. Our food does not seem to create health in us, it seems to create sickness. It is a surprising situation when food starts making us sick. It is as if the sun rising in the morning creates darkness. This would be an equally surprising and strange thing to happen. But all the physicians in the world are of the opinion that most of the diseases of man are because of his wrong diet. So the first thing is that every person should be very aware and conscious about his eating. And I am saying this especially for the meditator. It is necessary for a meditator to remain aware what he eats, how much he eats, and what its effects are on his body. If a man experiments for a few months with awareness, he will certainly find out which is the right food for him, which food gives him tranquility, peace, and health. There are no real difficulties, but because we do not pay any attention to food, we are never able to discover the right food. The second thing about food is that the state of our mind when we eat is much more important than what we eat. Food will affect you differently if you eat joyously, happily, or if you eat when you are the inner journey. 31 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep filled with sadness and worry. If you are eating in a worried state, then even the best food will have a poisonous effect. And if you are eating with joy, then it is possible that sometimes even poison may not be able to have its total effect on you. It is very possible. So what state of mind you eat in is important. In Russia there was a great psychologist called Pavlov. He did some experiments on animals and he reached an amazing conclusion. He experimented on some dogs and some cats. He gave food to a cat and he observed the cat through an X-ray machine to see what happened in her stomach after she ate her food. When the food went into the stomach immediately released digestive juices. At the same time a dog was brought to the window of the room the cat was in. When the dog barked, the cat became afraid and the X-ray machine showed that the secretion of digestive juices within her stopped. The stomach closed. It shrunk. Then the dog was taken away, but for 6 hours the stomach remained in the same condition. The digestive process of the food did not begin again and the food remained undigested in the stomach for 6 hours. After 6 hours, when the juices started flowing again, the food was not in a digestible state, it had become solid and had become difficult to digest. When the cat's mind became worried about the presence of the dog, the stomach stopped its work. Then what about our situation? We live in worry for 24 hours a day. It is a miracle how the food we eat gets digested, how existence manages it in spite of us. We have no wish to digest it. It is absolutely a miracle how it gets digested. And how we remain alive. This is also a miracle. Our state of mind should be graceful and blissful. But in our houses the dining table is in the most gloomy state. The wife waits the whole day for her husband to come home to eat and all the emotional sickness she has gathered in 24 hours comes out just when the husband is eating. She does not know that she is doing the work of an enemy. She does not know that she is serving poison on her husband's plate. The husband is also afraid and worried after the whole day's work, he somehow dumps the food into his stomach and leaves. He has no idea that the act which he has finished so quickly and has run away from should have been a prayerful one. It was not an act which should have been done in a hurry. It should have been done in the same way as someone entering a temple, or as someone kneeling to pray, or as someone sitting to play his veena, or as somebody singing a song for the beloved. This act is even more important, he is giving food to his body. It should be done in a state of tremendous blissfulness. It should be a loving and prayerful act. The more happily and joyously and the more relaxed and without worry a person can take his meal, the more his food starts becoming the right food. A violent diet does not only mean that a man eats non-vegetarian food. It is also a violent diet when a man eats with anger. Both of these things are violent. While eating in anger, in suffering, in worry, man is also eating violently. He does not realize at all that just as he is violent when eating the flesh of something else, so when his own flesh burns up inside due to anger and worry, violence is present there too. Then the food which he is eating cannot be non-violent. The other part of right food is that you should eat in a very peaceful, a very joyful state. If you are not in such a state, then it is better to wait until you are and not to eat for a while. When the mind is the inner journey. 32 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep absolutely ready, only then should one take his meals. For how long will the mind not be ready? If you are aware enough to wait, then at the most it can remain hungry for only one day, but we have never bothered to listen to it. We have made eating food a completely mechanical process. One has to put food into the body and then leave the dining table. It is no longer a psychological process, that is dangerous. On the body level, the right food should be healthy, non-stimulating, and non-violent. On the psychological level, the mind should be in a blissful state, graceful and joyous, and on the level of the soul there should be a feeling of gratefulness, of thankfulness. These three things make food the right food. We should have a feeling that because today food is available to me, I am grateful. I have been given one more day to live, I am tremendously grateful. This morning I have woken up alive again, today the sun has given its light to me again, today I will be able to see the moon again, I am alive again today. It was not necessary that I should have been alive today, today I could have been in a grave, but life has again been given to me. I have not earned it, it has been given to me free. For this at least, a feeling of thankfulness, of gratitude, should be there in one's heart. We are eating food, we are drinking water, we are breathing, we should have a sense of gratefulness about all this. Towards the whole life, towards the whole world, towards the whole universe, towards the whole nature, towards the divine, there should be a feeling of gratefulness. I have received one more day to live. Once more I have received food to eat. For one more day I am seeing the sun, seeing the flowers blossoming. I am again alive today. 2 days before death came to Rabindranath, he said, Lord, how grateful I am. O God, how shall I express my gratitude? You gave this life to me when I was not in any way worthy of receiving it. You gave breathing to me when I had no right to breathe. You gave me experiences of beauty and bliss which I had not earned at all. I am grateful. I am overpowered by your grace. And if in this life given by you, I may have received any pain, any suffering, any worry, it must have been my fault, because this life of yours is very blissful. It must have been my fault. So I do not ask you to give me liberation from life. If you feel me worthy, then send me into this life again and again. This life of yours is very blissful and I am utterly grateful for it. This feeling of gratitude, should be there in all aspects of life, and very particularly with diet. Only then can diet become the right diet. The second point is, right labor. That too is no longer an essential part of our lives. Physical labor has become a shameful act. A Western thinker, Albert Camus, has written jokingly, in one of his letters, that a time will come when people will start asking their servants to make love for them. If someone falls in love with somebody, he will appoint a servant to go and make love on his behalf. This can happen someday. We have already started getting everything done by others. Love is the only thing which we still do ourselves. We appoint others to pray for us. We employ a priest and tell him to pray on our behalf, to do the rituals on our behalf. We appoint a priest in the temple and tell him to worship on our behalf. Even the things like prayer and worship we are getting done by our servants. So if we are getting our servants to worship for us, it is not unthinkable that someday wise people will tell their servants to make love to their beloved on their behalf. What is the difficulty? And those who will not be able. The inner journey. 33 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep to afford servants to do their job, will feel ashamed that they are so poor that they have to make love themselves. It is possible someday because there is so much in life which is significant but which we are now getting done by our servants. and we are not at all aware of what we have lost by losing the significant things. All the strength, all the vitality of life is lost because man's body and man's being have been created for a certain amount of labor, and now he has been spared from all that work. Right labor is also an essential part in the awakening of man's consciousness and energy. One morning Abraham Lincoln was polishing his shoes in his house. One of his friends who was visiting him, said, "Lincoln, what are you doing? You polish your own shoes." Lincoln said, "You surprise me. Do you polish other people's shoes?" "I am polishing my own shoes, do you polish others' shoes?" The friend said, "No, no, I get my shoes polished by others." Lincoln said, "It is even worse to get your shoes polished by others than to polish others' shoes." What does it mean? It means that we are losing our direct contact with life. Our direct contacts with life are those that come through labor. In the time of Confucius, about 3,000 years ago, Confucius once went to visit a village. In a garden he saw an old gardener and his son pulling water out of a well. For the old man the work of drawing water out of a well was very difficult even with the help of his son. And the old man was very old. Confucius wondered if this old man did not know that bulls and horses were now being used to draw water out of the well. He was drawing it himself. He was using such old methods. So Confucius went to the old man and said, "My friend, don't you know that there has been a new invention? People are drawing water out of wells with the help of horses and bulls. Why are you doing it yourself?" The old man said, "Speak softly, speak softly. For me, it does not matter what you say, but I am afraid my young son may hear you." Confucius asked, "What do you mean?" The old man replied, "I know about these inventions, but all inventions like this take man away from labor. I do not want my son to become disconnected, because the day he becomes disconnected from labor, he will be disconnected from life itself." Life and labor are synonymous. Life and labor have the same meaning. But slowly we have started calling those people who do not have to do physical exertion, fortunate, and those who have the inner journey 34 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep to do physical exertion, unfortunate. And in a way it has become so, because in a way many people have dropped doing labor, so some people have to do too much labor. Too much labor kills one. Too little labor also kills one. Hence I said right labor. Proper distribution of physical labor. Each person should do some physical labor. The more intensely, the more blissfully, the more gratefully a man enters the labor part of his life, the more he will find that his life energy has started moving down from the brain closer to the navel. For labor neither the brain nor the heart is needed. The energy for labor is derived directly from the navel. This is its source. Along with the right diet, a little physical labor is very essential. And it is not that it should be in the interest of others, that if you serve the poor, it benefits the poor. If you go to a village and do farming, it benefits the farmers. If you are doing some labor, you are doing a great social service. These are all false things. It is for your own sake, not for anyone else's sake. It is not concerned with benefiting anybody else. Someone else may benefit by it, but primarily it is for your own good. When Churchill retired, one of my friends went to see him at his house. In his old age, Churchill was digging and planting some plants in his garden. My friend asked him some questions about politics. Churchill said, "Drop it. Now it is over. Now if you want to ask me something, you can ask me about two things. You can ask me about the Bible, because I read it at home, and you can ask me about gardening because I do it here in the garden. Now I have no concern about politics. That race is over. Now I am doing labor and prayer." When my friend returned he said to me, I do not understand what kind of man Churchill is. I thought he would give me some answers. But he said he was doing labor and prayer. I told him, saying labor and prayer is a repetition. Labor and prayer mean the same, they are synonymous. And the day that labor becomes prayer and prayer becomes labor is the day that right labor is attained. A little labor is very essential, but we have not paid any attention to it. Not even the traditional sannyasins of India paid any attention to labor, they refrained from doing it. There was no question of their doing it. They simply moved in another direction. Rich people stopped laboring because they had money and they could pay for it, and sannyasins stopped because they had nothing to do with the world. They neither had to create anything, nor did they have to earn money, so what did they need labor for? The result was that two respected classes of society moved away from labor. So those in whose hands labor remained, slowly became disrespected. For a seeker, labor has great significance and usefulness, not because you will produce something from it, but because the more you are involved in some kind of labor, the more your consciousness will start becoming centered. It will start coming downwards from the brain. It is not necessary that the labor has to be productive. It can be non-productive also, it can be a simple exercise. But some labor is very essential for the agility of the body, complete alertness of the mind, and total awakening of the being. This is the second part. There can be a mistake in this part also. Just as one can make a mistake with one's diet, either one eats too little or one eats too much, so a mistake can happen here also. Either one does not do labor at all or one does too much. Wrestlers do too much labor. They are in a sick state. A wrestler is not a healthy person. A wrestler is putting too much of a burden on the body, he is the inner journey. 35 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep raping the body. If the body is raped, then some parts of the body, some muscles, can be developed more. But no wrestler lives long. No wrestler dies in a healthy state. Do you know this? All wrestlers, whether he is a Gama, or a Sando, or anybody else with a great body, even the greatest in the world, die unhealthy. They die earlier and they die of violent diseases. Raping the body can swell the muscles and make the body worth looking at, worth exhibiting, but there is a great difference between exhibition and life. There is a great difference between living, being healthy, and being an exhibitionist. Each person should find out according to himself, according to his body, how much labor he should do to live more healthily and more freshly. The more fresh air there is inside the body, the more blissful each and every breath is, the more vitality a person has to explore the inner. Simone Weil, a French philosopher, has written a very wonderful thing in her autobiography. She said, "I was always sick until the age of 30. I was unhealthy and I had many headaches. But it was only at the age of 40 that I realized that until the age of 30 I was an atheist. I became healthy when I became a theist. Only later did I see that my being sick and unhealthy was related to my atheism." A person who is sick and unhealthy cannot be full of gratitude towards existence. There can be no thankfulness in him towards existence. There is only anger. It is impossible for such a person to accept something towards which he is full of anger. He simply rejects it. If one's life does not attain a certain balance of health through right labor and right exercise, then it is natural that one will have some negativity, a resistance, and anger towards life. Right labor is an essential rung on the ladder to ultimate theism. The third point is right sleep. Food has become disorganized, labor has become disorganized, and sleep has been totally murdered. The thing which has been harmed the most in the development of human civilization is sleep. From the day man discovered artificial light, his sleep has become very troubled. And as more and more gadgets started falling into man's hands, he started feeling that sleep is an unnecessary thing, too much time is wasted in it. The time when we are asleep is a complete waste. So the less sleep we can do with the better. It does not occur to people that sleep has any kind of contribution to the deeper processes of life. They think that the time spent sleeping is time gone to waste, so the less they sleep the better, the more quickly they reduce the amount of sleep, the better. This was one group of people who wanted to reduce the amount of sleep needed, and another group were the monks and the hermits who felt as if this sleep, this unconsciousness in the form of sleep, was the opposite state of self-realization or self-awakening. So, according to them, it wasn't good to sleep, and the less you slept the better. There was one more problem for the monks. They had collected too many suppress ions in their unconscious, and in sleep all those suppress ions started surfacing and entering their dreams. So a kind of fear about sleep arose, because all the things that they had ignored during the day started surfacing in their sleep at night. The women they had left and run away from into the forest started arriving in their sleep. The monks started seeing them in their dreams. The money, the fame that the monks had run away from started following them in their dreams. So they felt that sleep was a very dangerous thing, out of their control, so the less they slept the better. These monks created a kind of feeling in the whole world that sleep is something unspiritual. This is an extremely foolish notion. The Inner Journey 36 Osho. Chapter 3. The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep. So the first group of people opposed sleep and felt that it was a waste of time, that there was no need to sleep for so long. The more time a person remained awake the better. People who calculate everything, make statistics about everything, are really strange. They have calculated that a person sleeps for 8 hours. 1/3 of his day goes into sleeping. If a person lives for 60 years, then 20 years have gone to waste. Out of a lifespan of 60 years, only 40 years are available for use. And then they have calculated even more. They have calculated how much time a man takes to eat food, to wear clothes, to shave, to bathe, and so on. After calculating everything, they said that almost our whole life goes to waste. And when they started subtracting all that time, they realized that it just seems as if a person lives for 60 years, in reality, 20 years go in sleep, some years go in eating, some years go in bathing, some years go in reading a newspaper. Everything goes to waste and nothing remains in life. These people created a panic. Their advice was to cut down on all these things if you want to have some time to live. Sleep takes up the maximum time in a man's life, so reduce it. So, while this group were advising a reduction in sleep and creating a wave of opposition against sleep, the second group, the monks and hermits, were calling sleep unspiritual and telling people to sleep as little as possible. The less a person slept, the more of a holy person he was, and if he did not sleep at all, then he was a totally holy person. These two groups and their ideas killed man's ability to sleep, and with the murder of sleep all the deep centers of man's life got shaken, disturbed, and became uprooted. We have not even noticed that the cause behind all the illnesses, all the disorders that have entered man's life is lack of sleep. The person who cannot sleep rightly cannot live rightly. Sleep is not a waste of time. The 8 hours of sleep are not being wasted, rather, because of those 8 hours, you are able to stay awake for 16 hours. Otherwise you would not be able to stay awake all that time. During those 8 hours life energy is accumulated, your life gets revitalized, the centers of your brain and heart calm down and your life functions from your navel center. For those 8 hours of sleep you have again become one with nature and with existence, that is why you become revitalized. If you want to torture somebody, then the best method, invented thousands of years ago, is to prevent him from going to sleep. It has not been possible to improve upon this method so far. During the last war in Germany, and even now in Russia, the most popular method of torturing prisoners was prevention of sleep. You simply don't allow the person to sleep. This is torture beyond all limits for the person, so guards were put next to the prisoners to disturb their sleep. The Chinese first discovered this method some 2,000 years ago. Simply not allowing a person to sleep was a very cheap method of torture. They would make the man stand in a cell which was so small that he could not move at all, could neither sit nor lie down. Then they used to drip water from above which used to fall on his head, drop by drop. He could not move at all, could neither sit nor lie down, so after a maximum of 12 or 16 or 18 hours the man would start shouting and screaming, "I will die. Save me. Get me out of here." Then they would ask the man to tell them the things he was concealing. After 3 days even the most courageous person would give up. Hitler in Germany and Stalin in Russia did the same thing with hundreds of thousands of people. They kept them awake, would not let them sleep. One cannot experience a worse torture than this. Even if you kill a person, he does not suffer as much as when you do not let him sleep, because it is only in sleeping that he regains what he has lost. If he is unable to sleep, then he goes on losing and losing his life energy and does not get anything back. He becomes totally dried out. The Inner Journey 37 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep are dried out people because our doors for attaining something are closed, and our doors for losing everything have got more and more open. Sleep needs to come back into man's life. Really, there is no alternative, no other step, for the psychological health of humanity than that sleep should be made compulsory by law for the next 100 or 200 years. It is very important for a meditator to see to it that he sleeps properly and enough. And one more thing needs to be understood, right sleep will be different for everybody. It will not be equal because the body has needs which are different for everyone, according to age and to many other elements. For example, when a child is in the mother's womb, he sleeps for 24 hours because all his tissues are developing. He needs complete sleep. His body will develop only if he keeps on sleeping for 24 hours. It is possible that children who are born lame or crippled or blind woke up during the 9 months in their mother's womb. Perhaps someday science may be able to understand that the children who somehow wake up in the mother's womb are born crippled, or with part of their body undeveloped. It is necessary to remain asleep in the womb for 24 hours because the whole body is getting created, the whole body is developing. A very deep sleep is necessary, only then can all the activities of the body take place. When a child is born, he sleeps for 20 hours. His body is still growing. Then he sleeps for 18 hours, then 14 hours. Slowly, as his body starts becoming mature, his sleep also gets less and less. In the end it settles at a time between 6 to 8 hours. The sleep of an old man gets less, it becomes 5 hours, 4 hours, even 3 hours, because the growth of the body of an old man has stopped. He has no need of much sleep every day because now his death is coming close. If an old man sleeps as much as a child sleeps, then he cannot die, death will be difficult. For death it is necessary that sleep becomes less and less. For life it is necessary that sleep is deep. That is why an old man by and by starts sleeping less and less, but a child sleeps more. If old people start expecting the same behavior from children as they do from themselves, it becomes dangerous. Old people often do this. Old people treat children as if they are also old. They wake them up too early in the morning, it is 3 o'clock, it is 4 o'clock. Get up. They are not aware that because they are old it is all right if they wake up at 4 o'clock. But children cannot wake up at 4 o'clock. To wake them up is wrong. It is harming the body functions of the child, it is very harmful for him. A child once said to me, "My mother is very strange. When I am not feeling sleepy at all at night, she forces me to sleep, and when I feel sleepy in the morning, she forces me to wake up. I do not understand why I am forced to sleep when I am not sleepy and I am forced to wake up when I am sleepy. You explain things to many people, can't you explain this to my mother?" He wanted me to help his mother understand that what she was doing was very contradictory. We are not aware that children are often treated like old people, and then, as they grow older, they have to start living according to many fixed rules written in many books. The Inner Journey 38 Osho. Chapter 3. The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep. Perhaps you may not be aware that the latest research says that there cannot be one fixed time for everyone to wake up. It is always said that to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning is good for everyone. This is absolutely wrong and unscientific. It is not good for everyone. It may be good for some people, but it may be harmful for other people. Within 24 hours, for about 3 hours, the body temperature of each person goes down. And those 3 hours are the hours of deepest sleep. If the person is woken up during those 3 hours, his whole day will be spoiled and his whole energy will be disturbed. Generally these 3 hours are between 2 to 5 in the morning. For most people these 3 hours are between 2 to 5 in the morning, but it is not the case with everyone. For some people their body temperature is low until 6 o'clock, for some it is low until 7. For some their temperature starts becoming normal at 4 in the morning. So if someone wakes up within these hours of low temperature, all 24 hours of his day will be spoiled and there will be harmful effects. Only when a person's temperature starts rising to a normal level is it time for him to wake up. Normally it is all right for everybody to wake up with the rising sun, because as the sun rises everyone's temperature starts rising. But this is not a rule, there are some exceptions. For some people it may be necessary to sleep a little later than sunrise, because each individual's body temperature rises at a different time, at a different pace. So each person should find out how many hours of sleep he needs and what is a healthy time for him to get up, and that is the rule for him, whatever the scriptures may say, whatever the gurus may say. There is no need to listen to them at all. For right sleep, the deeper and the longer you are able to sleep, the better. But I am telling you to sleep, not to keep on lying on the bed. Lying down on your bed is not sleep. To wake up when you feel it is healthy for you to wake up should be the rule for you. Usually it happens along with the sunrise, but it is possible that this does not happen to you. There is no need to be afraid or worried or to think that you are a sinner and to be afraid of going to hell. Many people who get up early in the morning go to hell, and many people who get up late are living in heaven. None of this has any relation whatsoever to being spiritual or unspiritual. But right sleep certainly does have a relationship with it. So each person should discover what is the best arrangement for him. For 3 months each person should experiment with his work, with his sleep and with his diet, and should find out what are the most healthy, most peaceful, and most blissful rules for him. And everyone should make his own rules. No two persons are alike, so no common rule is ever applicable to anybody. Whenever someone tries to apply a common rule, it has a bad effect. Each person is an individual. Each person is unique and incomparable. Only he is like himself, there is no other person like him anywhere on the earth. So no rule can be a rule for him until he finds out what the rules for his own life processes are. Books, scriptures, and gurus are dangerous because they have ready-made formulas. They tell you that you should wake up at a certain time, you should eat this, you should not eat that, you should sleep like this, you should do things in this way. These ready-made formulas are dangerous. The Inner Journey 39 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep are good to understand, but each person has to make his own arrangements for his life. Each person has to find his own path of meditation. Each person has to walk by himself and create a path for his spiritual journey. There is no ready-made highway for you to go and start walking on. There is no such highway anywhere. The path of the spiritual journey is like a small footpath, but a footpath that isn't even there. You create it as you walk along it, and it continues for howsoever long you walk on it. And the more you walk, the more your understanding of the journey that is yet to come develops. So these 3 points have to be kept in mind: right diet, right labor, and right sleep. If life proceeds rightly on these 3 points, then there is more possibility of opening what I call the navel center, which is the door to spiritual life. If it opens, if we get close to that door, then a very unique thing happens, something of which we have had no experience in our ordinary life. Last evening, when I left here, a friend came and said, "What you say is all right, but until we have contentment, it is very difficult to be convinced." I did not say anything to him. Perhaps he thinks that he will get contentment by my talking about it, but he is absolutely wrong and is wasting his time. I make whatever effort is needed from my side, but an even greater effort must be made from your side. If you do not make the effort,